And what happens is, in many cases, I find, and I hate to say this, but people who come into Islam, they come in with enthusiasm. They come in, they hit the ground running. They understand what they are leaving. They are leaving a corrupt society. They are leaving vice and sin. And they come into Islam trying to purify themselves, trying to reconnect to their Lord. But I find among the Muslims that are born on the Shahada, Ayla Tawheed, they take it for granted. And, it's like my Baba is Muslim, my Mama is Muslim, I come from a Muslim country, I come from a Muslim background. These things are not enough to preserve you as a Muslim. Okay? And I say that to say that, when I was in Saudi Arabia in 1980, and I made the Hajj in 1980. And it was very rugged. Very rugged. The condition was very rugged. And I see today that we can make the Hajj with a tax return. Okay? You work 3-4 months, you save the money, you make the Hajj. It's going up now. But the generation, there was no generation, there were few Muslims younger than my generation, very few. And if they were just coming on. And now I see that we have so many Muslims that has traveled abroad with the luxury to be facilitated to acquire an Islamic knowledge. And when they return to the society, they are looking to embrace an existing Muslim community because they know hundreds of families. And they know these families have children. So you're talking about they come back expecting to facilitate, educate, and upgrade the Islamic education of our present Islamic community. But you know what? I call it starting all over. They find more conflict and problems trying to rehab and reestablish the faith of Islam in the youth than they would go out and give dawah and bring someone. I'm sure you can attest to that, Imam Shaheed. That the work is like an overload. Not only do you have to invite people to Islam, but you also have to manage your family. It's almost like if you turn your back, they will run off the street. You see, it's like blind men driving, reckless in the society. We have abandoned the Quran. The best speech. The best speech we have here, and I'm sure they have in other masajid. We have Hafiz Sheikh Said who works majani, okay, who works continuously, and I've known him to be working in my presence here for over 2 years, teaching the Quran. Teaching the Quran. But you know what? The classes actually, how do you call it when they decrease. And we cannot find those second and third generation Muslims with an appetite to study the Book of Allah. And I'm saying it to say, dear Muslims, we have to pass this mantle to someone. If you know what a marathon is? Not a marathon, but what you call it when you have you pass the baton. That's a marathon. Not a marathon. Relay. A relay. That's a relay. When you're running a relay, that means that when you're running and the next person who's ahead of you, he has to be up and running before you reach him the baton. Because if he's running slower than you have to run him down and give it to him to maintain the continuity of the race. But if you are running faster than him, then he has to stop and you lose your momentum, and then you lose the race. And I'm saying this to you youth, that you have to be running faster than us, at least faster than me. Because who are we going to give this Islam to? Who are going to be the students? It is almost ironic in the 21st century that we have to travel abroad with all the technology and scholarship and ilm and knowledge that we have right in our midst. You shouldn't have to go to Egypt or Saudi or the Maghrib to learn Arabic or Quran or Hifz, but you can learn it right here. Right here. I remember in 1969, there was an American brother named Mukhtar. He memorized, he was the first American who memorized the Quran. And he memorized it, believe it or not, reading transliteration, phonetics. And it was such an inspiration to the people that they actually paraded him around different masajids. How can this Amriki memorize the Quran and never left the country? And that was in 69. That's what, 40 years ago or so? Brothers and sisters, our youth are at risk. You know, I wrote a book called Coloring Muslim. Okay, and that book was written to inspire young Muslims to overcome the challenges in their society. I was born in Jim Crow, North Carolina. I went to segregated schools, very, very racial society. I understood what was racism and white supremacy and all the accolades that went along with that when I was about 6, 7 years old. Then I spent time in New Jersey, and then I went to high school in New York during the heroin epidemic. All of in my classroom, there was using hash and heroin and all kinds of stuff. And believe it, I never saw cocaine or heroin until I was an adult and married to church. I didn't even know what color it was. I didn't know what it smelled like. When I went to school, I saw some of my classmates trying to introduce to me hashish. They said it was better than marijuana, you know? So I'm saying I had to fight against all of these influences and peer pressure. And the only wiqaya or protection that I had was La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That was the only protection. And even in school, I was the only Muslim that was actually enrolled in Georgia Wingate High, the only Muslim out of 600 students. You know, and all of my teachers, was Yahudi. Most of my teachers was Jewish. You know, and I used to wear my little red fez in the class because, you know, I had to have an identity and something to fight for. Okay? And the first person that sat beside me in my English class, his name was Brian. Okay? He changed his name to Abdul Qadir. He was the best dressed for 2 years. He was the flyest guy in the school, okay? And through association, as the Prophet ﷺ said, you own the religion of your companions, so be very careful how you choose your companions. I had more influence over him, so he took the shahada and I took him to the masjid. The people thought he had lost his mind. A guy who wearing the super fly clothes and all like this, now he got a kufi on his head, he got a jalabiyah on, and he's talking a different language. They thought he had lost his mind. And then the next person, his friends, they became Muslim. So there was 3 of us, okay? And then I was sitting in the gym, okay, we had gym, and Mr. Goldman was our gym teacher. And they called the roll, and I heard him say, Abdul Habib. You know, that's, you know, you talk about in the early 70s, Abdul Habib. I turned around, and it was a brother from Yemen. And he had a defect in his leg. And after the roll call, I embraced him, and I, you know, at that time there was a lot of gangs and things like that. They take your money and all that. I don't know if you remember that. You probably were younger than the gang banging and stuff in New York, Brooklyn, Latin Nights and all this, the Tomahawks. But I went to school with all these guys. I knew the leaders of these groups when they graduated and went on into the world. And I took Abdul Hamid under my arm, and I protected him. And he introduced me to the Yemeni community. I moved out of my house at 16 and stayed with a brother from Tanzania who was a general for the army there. He had come to America. And then I moved and stayed with the Yemenis. And I took all of these brothers to the masjid, and alhamdulillah, they had families, they flourished and so forth. So I'm saying this to say, dear Muslims, you don't have to give up your Islam. If you are more influential upon the people you associate with, they will accept Islam. The best dawah is what? Example. But if I would have caved in, okay, then I would have been encouraged to stick a needle in my arm, or put some cocaine up in my nose, or smoke some weed, or go to the store and get some Strawberry Hill or Bloom, or what's that, all this kind of wine. This is what they was doing. What's the name of it? Mad Dog? That's new. How you know about that? Anyway, let's keep going. But anyway, I'm saying this, brothers and sisters, man, we need y'all. We need y'all. Believe me, I was talking to one imam who is a graduate of the university and alhamdulillah and hafiz and all this kind of stuff. And I asked him, Kam Taliban lak? He said, Inni Talibun Wahid. I said, man, who? He said, Ibni. He said, I have one student and it's my son. We need you, brothers. We need you all to step up your game. We have sisters out here who cannot find companion that is compatible with the zeal and enthusiasm to give birth and raise these children on the deen. And vice versa, we have brothers who are looking for wives who cannot find compatible sisters to raise children. To raise children, to be Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said he wants to outnumber every other ummah. But not through zina, not through adultery and fornication, because when you bring a child through zina, you kill that child's dignity, his integrity. You abase him, you humiliate him in that type of society. It becomes a psychological defect that causes him to underachieve. You see? It's important that we start our Islam very young to become adatun jayyida, a good habit. You know what a good habit is? Like a cup of Starbucks? That's a good habit, you know? You know when you have a taste for something that nothing can replace it? Of all the coffees that was in New York and New Jersey, my brother Taha, he only drank the coffee from McDonald's. He didn't care what you brought. He said, no, I want the Mac. Because this is what we need to do. Adatun jayyida, we need to develop good habits in Islam. Trust me, you can replace that bad stuff. If you're going to spend 7 hours on your iPhone, you should be studying the Quran. You should be studying Islam. You should not be on Facebook. You know, what you call airing your laundry, looking for battles. What they call them, internet battles. Debasing and defaming and you know, things of this nature. But let's become positive, you know, and we need you. And it does, you know, we can start with one. As they say, يَتَطَلَّبُ الْعَمْرُ قَرْيَةً لِتَرْبِيَةٍ. It takes a village to raise a what? Child. But this is you got more than a village. You have more people in your family than anyone on the planet. Every Muslim have 1.8 billion brothers and sisters and mothers and aunts and children and so forth. You got the biggest family. Huh? You have more resources that you can exhaust. Y'all are depriving and shortchanging yourself of a great ni'mah. So I'm closing in this, inshallah. You know, Umar ibn Khattab again, Radha said that he feared for the upcoming generation as the bonds of brotherhood would deplete because they have no knowledge of the Jahiliyyah. When y'all guys go out here and y'all want to do something crazy, go ask some people who got knowledge. If you are involved in something and it will cause you to be incarcerated for the rest of your life, go talk to someone who's been incarcerated. They'll tell you, I took the wrong path. You see? You know about the shooting that happened Tuesday in Newark? There was a young man that was killed, a basketball player and things of that nature, and he was a model student. This past Jumu'ah, his father was here, and I gave a khutbah on Bina al-Jid al-Qadim lil-Muslimin, building our future generation of Muslims. And he came to me after the khutbah with tears in his eye. He said, my son was the one that was a victim of a random shooting in Newark. Just in the wrong place at the right time. You see? So let us, dear Muslims, listen to our parents. Huquq walidain is a sin. Disobeying and being, insubordinate to your parents is one of the major sins. So inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant our offsprings and our children and the generations to come to be strong and firm in Islam, inshallah. If you help Allah, trust me, if you help Allah, He will help you and He will make your feet strong. Jazakallahu khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh no, you're not done. No.